The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker probably had the second most thought-provoking ending to me when it came to Zelda titles. Ocarina of Time will always take the cake, whether it be through nostalgia or just how screwed up Link's life really is, but The Wind Waker definitely follows immediately after it. If you watch my video about Breath of the Wild 2 and the potential of Ganondorf having a change of heart, you'll be familiar with this concept. It was the reflective nature of Ganondorf in these final moments that really made me wonder. However, once the battle comes to a close, the world of Hyrule begins to flood, and we find our hero and Tetra floating on the surface of the water. The rest of the cutscene plays out, and the credits roll. But let's focus on that exact scene and take a step backwards, away from the actual storytelling of Zelda and into the developmental side of things. Because oftentimes exploring the full extent of the worlds in gaming is just as interesting as diving deep into the lore. So let's talk about how certain clues scattered around this ending cutscene actually hint at a shift that took place developmental side. A look into how Wind Waker's ending shares a ton of light onto something that became a major problem during the game's development. Now before diving into the deep end with all of this, everything you're about to hear was all discovered by Melon Speedruns. He'll be joining in on this video to help showcase some of the findings. Melon's worked on awesome projects like Ocarina of Time Online, amongst other amazing mods. Definitely check his channel out for future awesome releases and devlogs. As the ending plays out in Wind Waker, a lot of you may have noticed that things get a tad grainy, almost as if the quality just dropped. Now, it may have not been as visibly clear while playing this game in standard definition on the GameCube, but there is definitely a change. And this is because once Link and Tetra begin floating on the surface of the water, we're no longer actually within the game world. We're watching a movie. This transition takes place once the screen fades to black. So what the developers did was they compiled the entire ending as one long video file. And this is what plays as the credits roll. So why is this interesting? Well, it's because these areas are still hidden within the game. They can actually be played out in real time too. By using a cheat to allow us to open up the game's map selector, although in Japanese, we can pinpoint the scene and force the game to load it. The interesting thing is, we can choose to load the video at this point too, although it doesn't run properly. Upon booting up the actual in-game component to this cutscene, it plays out as usual. Lots of waving, cool panning shots, etc. But as soon as the scene is over, Link snaps back into reality again. There is no transition moving us to the actual credits sequence, and instead, we're stuck floating in a vast sea with Tetra. Even though our sword is supposed to be at the bottom of the ocean in Ganondorf's head, we have it here. This is completely different than the video file version of the ending, as Link doesn't have any equipment with him while he's floating. However, unlike Tetra, we can't swim forever. If we drown, something quite bizarre happens. We respawn over on an invisible island with Tetra nearby us, except Tetra is frozen and can't be interacted with. We're standing at something far away from where our boat was at, in a strange pre-credits limbo.
So what's happening here is that we are actually on a cutscene map. These are maps that are loaded specifically to play out scenes in the game, and for the most part, the entire world is just water. So what we're standing on is actually one of the triangle islands of the game. For some reason, the cutscene maps retain the collision for one of the islands, and if we dump the collision from the game and look at it with a program, we can see the island right there. What's interesting about this water world is that while we can't interact with anyone in the area, we can actually use the boat to warp us out of here.
The boat is super far away, but if we manage to get back on top of it with either a super jump or a modified hookshot, we can still utilize the door to go into the interior of the boat. No matter where the boat is as an object, the inside is always still accessible. This is something people utilize in speedruns, if you've ever watched them. The boat has two possible warp points. If you've completed Forsaken Fortress, it'll take you to Windfall Island. But if you haven't, it'll take you outside of Forsaken Fortress. So we can use this to exit the ending of the game, even though Ganondorf was defeated and Hyrule was flooded. But let's get back to those cutscenes again. We've covered the extent of the first cutscene that normally transitions into the rolling credits. After this, a second ending cutscene plays as well. This scene is also accessible in the game, but it doesn't run without some modifications. This is because it tries to load Link onto the King of Lions. This caps off the game with a big credits sandwich. But why do these scenes exist if a video file is used instead? And that's where we tap back into that developmental problem.
I believe the reason why these ending scenes weren't utilized were because it wasn't actually possible to play them on the GameCube due to the limitations of the console. Specifically, I think the problem is with the audio. I think originally the development team ran into a roadblock linking all these scenes together. Perhaps it was due to not being able to fit the entire ending theme into the GameCube's 43 megabytes of RAM?
Another reason for this conversion may have been that they wanted to have a heavily stylized credit sequence, but this couldn't be done in the engine itself. Thus, they had to produce a video instead. But the problem became playing a video file within the engine while maintaining the audio of the final cutscene.
The scenes could have all been produced separately, and the duration of the rolling credits may have been determined, so the music was created based on that total time frame. But when it came to implementing this, it wouldn't play correctly. The music of the cutscene is non-existent as well when you try to watch them. So the solution to this was to record the two ending sequences as movies and edit them together to make one long video file with all three parts merged.
What's interesting is that the discs of the GameCube can hold 1.36 gigabytes of data. The game is 511 megabytes in total, yet the ending cutscene is 524 megabytes. The ending video file was bigger than the entire game, despite how lossy the video format was. Now, while this probably doesn't mean anything, there's still a possibility that some data need to be deleted in order to fit this video file. There's still 300 megabytes or so free on the disk, but we don't know if this ending video was always the file size that it was. Fast forward to the future, when the game was remade in HD, they actually did use the in-game variants of these scenes. They didn't go to waste. They take place in real time within the game, and even the credit sequence was produced in the game's engine instead of utilizing a video. Stuff like this is always neat to dive into. Clues and hints left behind by developers allow us to try to piece together what changed within a game, and it's always thrilling exploring it all. But given this, what do you think about this ending? Think we're right? Or do you have your own explanation? We'd love to hear about it. And once again, a huge thanks to Melon Speedruns for bringing this to my attention, because this video wouldn't have existed otherwise. They're working on some awesome mods at the moment, so I highly recommend checking out their YouTube channel for major updates, and following them on Twitter so you can see how things progress in between videos. You can find a link to both of these in the description below. And with that, thanks for tuning in to this ending analysis. Perhaps one of these videos will interest you. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.